All right, guys, welcome to week 20 of the NHL Power Rankings. Jaden's going to get us kick-started.
Alrighty, quick and easy one this week. Chicago, not moving for me. Pretty pretty straightforward pick. Um, been pretty dog shit, and that is how it is. 172 in the last 10.
Yeah, pretty sums it up pretty well, even with Bedard back, yeah, not doing much. But into 31, new 31 this week, I've got the San Jose Sharks.
Yes, same thing.
Yeah, had a pretty poor week, getting shut out by Vegas, and I think they lose 2-4 to Nashville as well. So, winless week. So yeah, just moving on down. Not too much more to say about these guys.
Almost negative 100 goal differential. But moving on to number 30, Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah, same here.
So it's the same trio as always. They go 500 this week, so a little bit better. Still not great. 4-4-2 in the last 10. And yeah, it's just the same trio. Not much really to say there.
Look, I considered moving them up one more, and if this other team
Yeah,
that I'm about to announce keeps going, the Ducks definitely could move up, but I
yeah.
held off just for this week.
We could almost have
And
them at
that
32.
team, yeah, with the way they're going, and that team is the Arizona Coyotes. Um, Yeah, absolutely piss poor from them at the moment. But I mean, you pointed out they have had a pretty rough schedule as of late during this losing streak, and it didn't stop here. They lose to Colorado Avalanche 4-3, Edmonton Oilers 6-3, Toronto Maple Leafs 6-3, and that was it. They only played 3 games. So, three pretty tough teams.
Yeah,
But look, you've got to at least be picking up something. They're what 0-9-1 or something in their last 10, and I think
I think it's
yeah
like
they've
13 or 15 games of losses and like one win in there.
yeah exactly. So it's yeah it's not good for them, and I tell you what, if they keep going, they may just take over Chicago at 32 at this point.
Alrighty, on to 28, Montreal Canadiens.
Same here.
Another team with no wins this week. Yeah, just a little bit of slide. They faced New Jersey, Pittsburgh, and Buffalo. Pittsburgh on a back-to-back. Honestly, all winnable games there, and they lose two of those games by one goal, and lose by three against Pittsburgh. But yeah, just growing pains. Another growing season, and I know Montreal fans are a bit antsy. There's half the fan base is like, "Oh, why aren't we winning?" And the other fan base is like, "We're in a rebuild, guys." So you just understand you're in a rebuild.
Okay, you just look for the signs, and Slavkovsky breaking the Montreal record, I think, for youngest player on a 8 game point streak or whatever it was. That's what you should be looking forward to. And it's great progression from the previous number one overall.
That,
You've
that
got
everyone quickly said was a bust after like 1 year. Yeah,
every single number one overall is a bust. I mean, I'm pretty sure
yeah.
Connor Bedard, I think, got reverse hit the other day or something like that, and they said that uh he was going to be sorry, he's going to be a bust. He got hit. He's too small all of a sudden, and I was like, "What do you mean he got hit? He is small, but he's also 18. Give the kid a chance. He's almost a point a game player, but like that's how quick they are to jump on players, right? Like you
Yeah,
know,
it's a toxic league in regards to kids.
Hughes got it, Darlene got it. The only one I probably haven't seen get it lately is probably Owen Power. So yeah, it's all the same, but he's coming along nicely, and I think Montreal will be good if they can add a few more pieces. 27, the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, look, it's just same old, same old. They showed promise, but then they just slip. I think they had another 500 week, losing 5-1 to the Kings, winning 7-4 against the Ducks, and having a 2-1 loss to the Sabres. Sorry, it wasn't 500. They went 2 from 6, but yeah, it's just been their season. Really, they just can't get the wins when they need them. They give up easy leads that they shouldn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, they win what the game you expect them win on the back to back. They took it to Buffalo, which you'd expect them to at least be competitive, get a point out of that, and they didn't. So yeah, they move up purely because Montreal and Arizona can't win a game at the moment.
Yeah.
26 New York Islanders, OT Kings, and this team 1-3 this week. OT loss, of course, to the Rangers. OT win, of course, Pittsburgh. 4-0 by St. Louis, and then 4-2 loss to Tampa. So a lot of goals conceded. Minimum amount of goals they conceded this week was 4. Max obviously 6, and yeah, just conceding too much. Where's that defense that used to be the staple of this team, and it's just not there at the moment.
Exactly, and it's just OT, OT, OT at the moment, and it's just I think their season's done.
Oh yeah.
All right, on to 25. I've got the Buffalo Sabres.
Same here. Well, so far so good.
Yeah, so they technically moved down a position for both of us. Even though I think they went 3-1 or 2-1, but you look at their week, they should have gone 3-0. 3-4 loss against the Anaheim Ducks, where they outshot them 37-14. So they conceded 4 goals from 14 shots.
Yep.
Then they beat the Montreal Canadiens 3-2, so not convincing. And then they beat the Columbus Blue Jackets 2-1. And so 3 bottom end teams, and they didn't win one of them convincingly. So yeah, I just don't know what to make of the Sabres. I think their season's done as well, even though knowing the Sabres, they're going to go on this mad run and miss out on the playoffs by 1 point.
Yeah, I'd probably say from 20th down in my power rankings, I won't say cannot make the playoffs, but like pretty much out of the run. 24 for me, Seattle Kraken.
Yeah, they're 1 ahead.
Yeah, so this team had a hard week. They go 500. It was decent. OT loss against Detroit. They get the win 5-2 against Vancouver. Then they 5-2 lose to Minnesota Wild. So very tough week. Going 500, it was very decent. They just drop a bit because of a few teams that have been going on runs now that have been below them that I think are playing better. So it's just the staple with Seattle. They do play good every now and then, but they don't always get the results, and they're still 4-4-2 in the last 10.
24 for me. I got the Washington Capitals.
Alrighty. Washington Capitals. I almost had them this low. I have them at 21 though.
Yeah, I think I know what you've done, and I see it. But look, they had a good week. They beat New Jersey Devils 6-2. They beat the Tampa Bay Lightning 5-3. And then they get an OT loss against Florida. So they get 5 out of 6 points. They've had a little bit of a resurgence, but again, their last 10 is 4-3-3. And I think their season's pretty much done as well. And although they had a good week, I still don't overly rate their style of play. So they move up a couple, but I couldn't move too hard on them yet.
Yeah, falling down for me, Pittsburgh Penguins at 23.
Yeah, they're
just a
my
whole lot of
22.
metro teams at the moment in this area.
Yep.
It seems a pretty bad year, all things considered, for the metro. Besides really 3 teams, lose by a goal in regulation to LA. OT lose against the Islanders. They win 4-1 against Montreal. So that's the result you would expect, but you'd also expect them to beat the Islanders, probably in regulation as well, but that didn't happen. So 500, honestly, it's not good enough for where they are in regards to the playoff race, and they are 4-4-2, and they've been kind of 500 or below 500 for a while now.
They got to decide whether they're going to be sellers at the deadline, because you can't be losing Gensel for free and all the rest of that. So they've got some decisions to make. All right, we'll keep on the Metro trend. At 21, I have the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah,
Talking about disappointing Metro teams. Yeah, look, I think they were on a little bit of a sort of a streak, and they looked like they were coming good, but they had an absolutely horrible week losing 6-2 to the Washington Capitals, even though they heavily outshot them. They lose 5-1 to the New York Rangers, again heavily outshot them, 40-18, and then they get a 4-3 win against the Montreal Canadiens. So only 2 out of the 6 points, and honestly, it's
Season
it's
over.
worry time for this
No,
side. Yeah,
it's
I
season
like don't get me wrong. They're only a couple. They're only. I think if they win their games in hands, they're actually. Oh, they're sorry. They're 5 points shy of back of Tampa with 2 games in hand. So look,
They're not going
let's
to win
see
those
what
games though.
happens.
They're not good enough. Like I
Yeah,
said, 20 and lower for me. No playoffs.
yeah.
Almost
Look,
guaranteed.
I agree with you. I think and the disappointing thing is that I can look at the Capitals and be like, well, that's understandable. The Pens, that's understandable. Kraken, that's understandable. Sabres, Islanders, it's all understandable. The Devils were one of those teams that missing playoffs wasn't really on the agenda. Like a slip and a bit of a backward step was expected, but missing the playoffs 20 and talking about them not making playoffs 25 games away from the end of the season, it's a horrible turnaround from what they did last season.
Alrighty. Number 20, Ottawa Senators.
Yeah. Let's see how long this lasts, eh?
Yeah, look, 3 out of 4 wins, 7 out of 8 points. They beat Tampa 4-2 on a back-to-back. OT lose to Florida, so great result there. Dallas 4-1 win, keeping Dallas to 15 shots, and then 4-3 shootout win against Vegas. So really, really tough schedule, probably one of the toughest of the week, and they come out 7 out of 8 points. They're finally playing good and getting the result, and that's what you'd be expecting since the start of the season, but it just wasn't happening. We'll just have to see if they capitulate now or not. It's obviously too late in the season, but they are on a 7-2-1 in the last 10.
Yeah, and again, this, we talk about the disappointment in the Metro, that's the Devils. I think the disappointment in the Atlantic, that's the Senators. Because we were expecting the Senators to probably be the sort of team like the Devils, probably not have a season like the Devils did last season, but be very, very good this year. And they have been nowhere near that. But they seem to show these little glimpses because they had one hell of a week this week and they picked up 7 of 8 points. Like, it's incredible. But yeah, it's a little too late, unfortunately. All right, 19. We move to the St. Louis Blues, just sliding a little bit.
Yep, same here.
Yeah, look, I mean, what can you say? They've been pretty good lately, but they have an ordinary week. Lose 4-2 to the Leafs. They win 4-0 to the Islanders, which was good. But then they have a big blowout loss against the Detroit Red Wings, 6-1. So only the 2 out of the 6 points, but again, pretty hard week. They played on fire Leafs and an on fire Detroit. So they drop a little bit, but that's just because so many of these teams coming up are so close, especially in the standings at the moment.
Alrighty, 18. I have Calgary Flames, and
Same here.
this team going hot and cold, hot and cold. Win all games this week. Beat the Jets 6-3. Beat the Bruins 3-2 in OT, and then they beat Oilers 6-3. So 3 tough teams, get it done. Scoring a lot of goals, very impressive. But because of how they played last week as well, it kind of balances out in a sense. They are 7-3 in the last 10, and obviously because of these 3 wins on a 3-game win streak. So it's just if they can keep this momentum going.
Because they could just as easily lose all 3 next week. So
Yes.
just have to wait and see. All right, 17. I've got the Nashville Predators.
Same here. Same
Yeah,
here, number
look,
16.
yeah. Oh well, it's good form from us. But yeah, look, I mean, they're sitting in a wild card spot at the moment. They get the 5-3 win against Vegas, 4-1 win against the Kings, and a 4-2 win against the Sharks. So they win 3 from 3. Have some decent opponents, probably other than the Sharks there as well. So look, they're right in the hunt. And with the West, I could really see them getting a playoff spot, but it's going to be tough because they've got some competition. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if they can keep up this good form.
All right, starting top 16. Tampa Bay Lightning.
Hey, look at that, starting it off.
And look, they get 1 out of 3 wins. So they lose to Ottawa 4-2, lose to Washington 5-3, and then they go and beat the Islanders 4-2. So honestly, all 3 easier end teams, they come out with only 2 points. Very disappointing. It really just seems to be the Kucherov show. Just shy of 100 points pretty early in the season. And I feel like if he goes down, that's the end of their season. But like I said, I feel like 20 and lower in my power rankings are guaranteed not to make the playoffs. So I feel like Tampa's almost guaranteed to make the playoffs. It's just they're just gonna make sure they don't capitulate. That's about it. That's about it. But they do get some Vasilevsky back, I think, as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be hard to see them lose to lose out on that spot. But they probably potentially could be the ones I see slipping if they sort of let up, or if, as you mentioned off air, if Kucherov gets injured, because he does seem to be carrying that team at the moment. All right, on to 15. I got the Minnesota Wild.
I went bigger on this team. I got
Oh,
them at
he's done
12.
it.
I went them at 12.
Damn, son, look at him go.
Woo! Let's go
Um,
Wild. Let's go.
he's hot on him. And look, I don't blame you.
It's
They've
just
been
for the
good
double-digit
lately.
goals in one game. That's it. That's it.
Oh, yep. Did you also realize they conceded 7?
But that's not double-digit. That's not double-digit.
True, true. Um, but yeah, look, they have that massive game. So 10-7 win against the Vancouver Canucks. Then on the back-to-back, they lose to the Winnipeg Jets 3-6. A 4-2 win against the Edmonton Oilers. And then on another back-to-back, they get the 5-2 win against Seattle. So 6 from 8 points. And yeah, look, they're on a pretty good tear at the moment. 7-2-1 in the last 10. They've been heading in the right direction. At the right time as well, because they are in the hunt for a playoff spot. The question is, can they maintain this form, or is it going to be like last time and they slip off all of a sudden?
That's pretty much it. 15 for me. Another team kind of on a slight tear. LA Kings.
Like 14.
And look, they've been doing good. They beat Pittsburgh 2-1, beat Columbus 5-1, lose to Nashville 4-1, and then they beat Anaheim in shootouts 3-2, though they doubled their shots and had 50 shots that game. So look, they've been on a slow climb back from their poor form in the middle of the season, 7-2-1 in the last 10. I feel like slightly going under the radar because of how some other teams have been playing in the league, and it's exactly what they needed to do. So good on them, and just slowly climbing back in the higher into the top 16.
Exactly. It was a little worrying their form there, but they're back. So yeah, hopefully they keep it up. All right, 13 for me. I have the Philadelphia Flyers.
Not moving for me, 14.
Same. Yeah, they move up 1. I think it's purely because of the Tampa moving down. Yeah, they didn't. I don't think they had overly a great week, but I think they only played the 2 games.
Yeah, just Chicago
Um,
and Rangers.
yeah, so they get the 3-1 win against Chicago like you would expect, and then they lose 2-1 to the Rangers in a pretty tight game. Um, so yeah, I mean they go 500. It's hard to really move on them, but again, they are primed for a playoff spot. I'm just going to be interested to watch what they do at the deadline.
Alrighty. My pick. It is 13 Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, they're my 12, but yeah, they're heading down, aren't they?
Yeah, so they 4-0 win against San Jose. Back to back, 5-3 loss to Nashville. Then they go on 7-3 lose to Toronto, and then lose in shootout to the Ottawa Senators 4-3. So conceding 3 or more goals, well, basically 4 or more goals. Besides obviously the San Jose game, and that's San Jose, so you could probably scrub that out. But decent opponents as well, Nashville, Toronto, and I was saying up and coming Ottawa, even though they probably should be beating that one in regulation. So a little bit of a slide, a little bit of worry for me for them, and obviously 4-5-1 in the last 10, so below 500.
11. Talking about teams on a slide, I've got the Colorado Avalanche.
Yes, that's where I've got them too, out of my top 10.
Yeah, look, they a tough week. It has to be said. Well, their only win 4-3 against the Arizona Coyotes, but then they go up against the Vancouver Canucks, get a 3-1 win, a 1-2 loss against the Detroit Red Wings, and a 3-4 loss against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, three really tough opponents, and they still come out with 5 out of the 8 points. But they slide a little bit purely because of their last 10, 3, 5, and 2. They have been sliding that slight bit. The only real game, the easy game there, they do get the win, but it's not convincing against a really struggling Arizona. And I just think some other teams around them are performing a bit better than them at the moment. So they do move out of the top 10, but only ever so slightly.
All right, starting the top 10, Winnipeg Jets.
Oh, shit. Is that where I've got them? Yep, they're 10.
So
To think about
they
that.
start off 6-3 loss to Calgary. Back to back, they beat the Wild 6-3. So a little flip of results there. And then OT with Chicago and win that one there. I guess they moved down for me because I'm a little bit disappointed with the going to OT against Chicago with how they've been playing. And look,
Sure.
two big opponents there with that are kind of on runs in Calgary and Wild, and kind of flip flop results. You were not really expected to win the back to back on that side of things, but they did that. So couldn't really move too hard, but I just think other teams around them are going on runs, and that's what the Jets haven't done quite as of yet. Even though they're really up there, but 5-4-1 last 10.
Yeah, for sure. They're still definitely a powerhouse. They're just in a bit of a slump, but they're coming out of it. Number 9, I've got the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, me too.
And look, I mean, what are they? They're 3-3-4 or something in their last 10. And their week was
It's
they
a difficult week.
4-3. It was a very difficult week. 4-3 shootout win against the Dallas Stars, so good team. Then they get a 6-5 OT win against the Edmonton Oilers, good team. 2-3 loss to the OT loss to the Flames, and a 2-3 OT loss to the Canucks. So they get 6 of 8 points in a tough week. So look, this is the one thing I will say for them. They are in every single game. So they have slid a little bit. They've dropped the 2 positions, but I still have them quite high. They're just not quite getting those results. So I definitely
Yeah.
still think they're a powerhouse.
I
It's
think
just
they're the opposite of Islanders. They're in every game, but they win
they win
majority of the
most of
time.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're kind of just the flip flop of the Islanders. They've had
yeah,
14 OT losses on Islanders. No, Islanders had 14. They've had 13. So yeah, they're pretty much the complete opposite there.
yeah. But they've only won 26 of their 34 games in regulation. So they've played 21 games in overtime. So basically a third of their games have been in overtime. It's an incredible stat.
Alrighty, P8 for me, Edmonton Oilers
Yeah, same here.
sliding down just a little bit. And look, it hasn't been too bad. 6-3 win against Arizona. Obviously going to OT as we mentioned against Boston. They lose 4-2 to the Wild. Then on a back-to-back, they lose to Calgary. So honestly, pretty difficult week besides the Arizona game, especially considering the Calgary games on the back-to-back. I'm just a little bit concerned because sometimes I feel like they do going back to the old ways of relying a little bit on that power play a little bit too much. But they are still playing better hockey, so still top 10.
They're back to playing playoff hockey, which is the important part because at the end of the day, they've just got to make it. It doesn't really matter where they finish, just as long as they're playing reasonably good hockey, and then they can gear up for the playoffs. All right, 7 for me. I've got the Dallas Stars.
Alrighty, yeah, 7 for me.
In sync. Yeah, so they start off with a 3-4 shootout loss against the Bruins. They lose 3-1 to the New York Rangers on a back-to-back. They lose 4-1 to the Ottawa Senators, and then they get a 2-1 win against Carolina. So 3 of a possible 8 points this week. So a little bit of a disappointing one for the Dallas Stars. So they only slipped to one position so far, but yeah, it was still a tough week, so I haven't punished them too much. But yeah, if they don't start to pick up the results with some of the teams around them, they could definitely slip. This is how you look at it, all the way down to probably Vegas at 12. Dallas, if they have a bad week next week and those four teams below them have a good week, yeah, the five teams below them, they could find themselves at 12.
Yeah.
It's just that tight at the
Yeah,
moment.
disappointing thing. They had 15 shots against Ottawa, 16 against Carolina. So in consecutive games, obviously getting the win against Carolina, but that was my disappointing thing. They are P7. I think they are hard coded P7. I feel like I should just not move them for the rest of the season. Alrighty, on to P6. Vancouver Canucks. Moving on out of my top five. Just been a little bit slower as of recently. Obviously, that big loss against Wild, 10-7. Back to back, they versus Colorado, so you're almost not expecting to win that, and they lose 3-1. Lose 5-2 to the Kraken, and then against Boston, they win in OT 3-2. So, a difficult week in regards to schedule and who they versed on the back to back, but they have been sliding for probably just a little bit, not too big, but they are 4-5 in the last 10, and they just haven't gone on that big run that they were recently. So
Yeah,
that's why
they've
they're in
been
my
a
top
little
five.
bit. They've dropped a little bit on the consistency, I think. So yeah, but look, they're still top of the league, and I expect them to bounce back pretty quickly. All right, number 5 for me is the Detroit Red Wings.
Ah, yeah, same thing.
Yeah, look at these guys, huh? Like I've said many times, they're one of my favorite teams to watch this season. I just like how exciting they are when they play. They get a 4-3 win, a OT win against Seattle, a 2-1 OT win against Colorado, and a 6-1 win against the Blues. So they're 3-0. I think they're 7-2-1 in their last 10. Four wins on the trot. So yeah, look, it's all heading in the right direction for them. They've just got to keep it up because they're playoff bound right now. They've just got to do the right thing, and they should be in the playoffs. And it'll be great to see Detroit back in amongst it.
All right, P4, Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, oh, it's a big sound coming out of there. That's for sure.
So St. Louis 4-2 win, Arizona 6-3 win, on the back to back, Vegas 7-3 win, and then Colorado 4-3 win. So win all four games. Three of those games they concede 3 goals, and one of them they concede 2. They're scoring, keeping the goals against average down. Everything's working at the moment, and Bertuzzi with hat tricks. It's just really coming together at the moment. So we'll just have to see if they can keep that momentum going into playoffs, because that's where we know
Pretty good's
they need to do
McMahon. How good's McMahon? Like, where the hell does this Bobby McMahon come from?
it.
He's just come out of nowhere and he's got what 10 goals in the season already. he's he's on a better goals pace than bloody Austin Matthews in the last, which is pretty impossible because I think that guy's scored 11 goals in his last 5 games or whatever. But yeah, I mean, look, it is all clicking for them at the moment, and when you're getting a player like Bobby McMahon stepping up and scoring 5 or 6 goals in his last 6 games or whatever it is. That's exactly what this team needs. They need some bottom six chemistry and a couple of those players stepping up and that defense, really starting to click. So, as you said, it's really just putting it together in the playoffs for these guys at the moment. So let's see if they can do that, I guess. All right, number 3. Oh, now look, it might seem rude because they're on a 10-game winning streak, but the New York Rangers.
Yep.
It's crazy. Like they've won 10 in a row, and they've only moved up 1 for me and 3 for you. But look, there is a concern, and you did point this out to me, and it is a worry when you think about it. So they win 6-5 against the Ottawa Islanders in OT, conceding 41 shots. They win 3-1 to the Dallas Stars, conceding 42 shots. They win against the Devils 5-1, conceding 40 shots and only had 18. And then they win against the Philadelphia Flyers 2-1, conceding 40 and only having 24 shots. So for the week, they conceded 163 shots at an average of 41 and only had 106 shots at an average of 26.
They were outshot in
So
every game.
yeah, massively as well. It's not just a little bit. It's a big. Other than the Islanders, the shot differential was plus 16 to 20. Um, but I mean, look, they only conceded one goal in those 3 games. So, conceded 42 shots, 40 shots, and 41 shots or whatever, and conceded one goal in each of them.
My concern is once you start coming up against the Floridas and Carolinas and whatnot in playoffs, that's when those type of numbers are going to look real bad. Especially when you got the defensive powerhouses of those teams as well, so you're not going to be putting as many shots on. So that's my concern with the Rangers right now, though they're on a hot streak, obviously.
You can't take it away from them, that's for sure.
Number 2, no movement, Carolina Hurricanes for me.
Yeah, same here.
And yeah, look, they do beat Chicago 6-3. They did beat Florida 1-0. Obviously not making a move because of that. And then they do lose to Dallas 1-2, keeping Dallas to 16 shots. They only had 21. Their defensive game is really through the roof. They did concede 45 against Florida in regards to shots, but they're keeping Chicago and Dallas to 17 and 16 shots. I think it's just showing how good their defensive side and game has been and is playing, and I think it's back to last year's Carolina, and that's why I'm scared of them. I didn't make the move because they beat Florida, because I think Florida's just been that little bit better, just that little bit better.
And a 1-0 win isn't a blowout. It's a pretty tight game. Exactly. So, yeah. Look, I was the same. I made the same decision based on that. So yeah, look, Florida and Carolina, last year's Eastern Conference finalists, 1 and 2 at the moment, and looking extremely dangerous. But yeah, Florida number 1 again for another week. They had a reasonable week, 3-2 win against Ottawa Senators, and the Senators, as we said, have been on a bit of a tear. 1-0 loss to the Carolina Hurricanes, did put up 45 shots, and then a 3-2 OT win against Washington Capitals. So, 4 out of a total of 6 points. They're still 8-2-0 or whatever on the last 10, and they are absolutely frightening. Because we know that their team is built for playoffs as well. So they've all but guaranteed themselves a spot. It's just,
Only
what can
concern
they
was
do
2 games going to OT against teams outside the top 16.
here?
That was my only concern for them, but they're still playing good on ice hockey anyway, so there's no real concerns for Florida. Any team, probably top 12 at the moment for me, my power rankings. There's no real concerns there. Obviously, the only concern is Wild being, outside the playoff race at the moment. But I'm pretty happy with his power rankings at the moment. Pretty sad with the Metro, where 5 teams are in the below 20 position for my power rankings, and I think yours as well. But then they got the 2 teams in the top 3, so it is how it is, how it plays out. But yeah, let us know what you think in the comments below of our power rankings. Comment below what your power rankings are. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and for more content, we'll see you guys next time.
Yes.